Hello and welcome to the lecture for Chapter 6 in our book, Welcome to Computer Basics. This lecture video is going to correspond with that chapter. It's called Finding Files. The chapter objectives are to describe and use various storage devices, use File Explorer to locate files and folders, plug in and properly unplug a USB flash drive, identify different types of folders used by Windows, and find files and folders with file search. So, when you first get your computer, you don't really have to worry so much about file management because there's really nothing on there. But as you get into using the machine productively, then you're going to start saving files. Our hope is that you're going to start saving files. And so you're going to need a way to manage those files so that one, you know where they are, two, that it's kind of logical for your thinking. So again, there's no wrong or right way. It just has to mean something to you. The only thing that you really have to go by is the naming conventions, so we talked about that. There are certain symbols and characters that you cannot use in a file name or a folder name, and we'll cover those. And other than that, it's going to be alphabetical. You can't change that around unless you're just sorting. But the default setting is to alphabetize these folders, and then it goes to files. So, and we'll get into that as we go. So but you need to be familiar with how to find these things and what the logical steps are to get there. So if we look at page 155 in the book, it talks about storage media. And so the first thing that it shows you is an internal hard drive. Well, we know that that's the C drive, and that's where our operating system is stored and all of our programs are stored. And then, we save files into our documents. Everything is there. You can have more than one hard drive in a machine. But only one is going to be the boot device. Then they talk about a CD or DVD drive, and that would be a CD or a DVD. That would be the media. The drive is actually the device that we're using to read the contents on that media. So when someone says, well, what kind of media are you using? Well, I'm using a flash drive. Oh, I'm using a CD. Oh, I'm using a DVD. Okay, so that's media. And CDs and DVDs, some machines that you buy nowadays, they don't even have a CD or a DVD drive. They're kind of, I hate to say obsolete because they're not, but they are. They're kind of in that transitional period where, if you don't have a CD-ROM or a DVD drive on your machine, it's not really that big of a deal because you can either buy one that's USB or you can just download whatever you need from the internet. So it's kind of in that transitional phase. On page 156, we talk about external hard drives, and these are they're the same thing as an internal, but they're enclosed in a case, and then they plug in using a USB port. So the concept would be the same as far as how you can access it and how you can save to it. But it's just something that you can, unplug and take with you, kind of like a flash drive, but bigger. And in most cases, they're going to have an actual mechanical hard drive in it versus being flash memory like a flash drive is. And then we talk about flash drives. And so that's what we're going to deal with in this class. But you have to remember that the concept is the same. Doesn't matter what kind of media you're using, the concept of saving and saving as will always stay the same. Okay, just have to remember that. So a flash drive, very small. You could call them a thumb drive, a keychain drive, a jump drive. They have lots of names to describe them. Memory sticks. So I tend to use flash drive. It's what I've always used. I know some people use them thumb drives, or some people say it's a jump drive. Just know that they all mean the same thing. And then at the bottom of 156, they talk about a network drive. And typically this is something that is plugged into, it could be as simple as having a case with a hard drive with an Ethernet port that plugs into a switch or a router, and then anybody on the network can access it as long as they have the proper software installed, or they have the IP address to that device. Or it could be a server. So if we take a look at our File Explorer on campus, on the left-hand side, you'll notice some strange little icons there, and you'll see like apps and you'll see classes. Those are network storage drives. So those are drives that are not connected to the physical machine that you are working on, but you have access to the contents of those drives over the network. So and you won't have access to those at home, just because you're not on the network there. So but network drives can be kind of handy, so that a lot of people can access them instead of having it, physically connected to the machine that you're on. Next, page 157, talking about viewing those storage drives. You would go into File Explorer, and then you would be able to see those, but you need to be able to discern what's what. So we use drive letters, and the drive letter designation has been around since the beginning of the operating systems. They start with A and they go on through Z, and if we have that many drives, then we start with A, Z, A again. So typically you're not going to have that many drives on a machine unless it's a network drive. I mean, you could theoretically have that many things connected to a single machine. I've never seen anything like that, but it's a theoretical instance where it could happen because this is the way they do things. So if we take a look at the bottom of 157, it kind of shows us a couple of different things. We'll see the C drive is Windows 10 Pro. I think that's what we have on campus, Windows 10 at least. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's Pro. It might be educational. But C is always, 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 always the boot device. Now, this is where our operating system is going to be. If you've ever had a machine that C was not the boot device, then you had someone who worked on your machine who didn't know what they were doing, because that should always be the boot device where the operating system is at. Now, okay, so we have C. What happened to A and B? Well, A and B, they had designations for floppy disks. So A would have been a 5 1/4 inch floppy, and let's just see if I can find a picture here. I should have started this before I started the video, but that's okay. This machine's kind of slow. All right, so here we go. I've got search. I'm going to say 5.25 inch floppy disk. Okay, so let's do this. And so if we go to images, let's see. So here we go. We can kind of see how large this is, right? So here's a 5 1/4 inch floppy. And it's actually flexible, so you could pick it up by a corner and wave your hand up and down, and it would actually bend, as you were doing that. So this was drive letter A, and it was 5 1/4 inches, and it would hold about 700 kilobytes, which is very, very small, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Then B is a 3 1/2 inch floppy. So here, let me just change this. 3.5 inch floppy disk. And so here, this one is a little bit smaller. So here's a hand holding it, and you can see the difference between the two. This actually has a hard shell, so it's floppy, but it's not floppy. This, if we look at this picture, this is showing the 5 1/4 inch floppy here, and then the 3 1/2, and this was like a 10. So this would have gone into like a server. I never used one of these. I had one of these almost all the way through college, and then the last year I was in college, we graduated to 3 1/2 inch floppies. And these really aren't floppies. Like I said, they have a hard shell on them. But you can see this is the casing for the 5 1/4. It's kind of a plastic, and then inside is Mylar, and that is where the data is stored. So as you plug this in, this edge would go into the drive, and then this, it would spin. It would be spun around, and this is the read area. So this is where the heads, the read-write heads, would pull the information off. This one, so the 3 1/2, this door right here you'd pop it into the 3 1/2 inch disk drive, and it would push this door over. You can see it kind of gives you an area where it slides, and then this area is open. So you'd push this over, the drive would anyway, and you have the same type of instance where you've got this cutout where it can access the Mylar disk inside where everything is stored. And this one would hold 1.4 megabytes. Okay, and we're going to talk, like, again, we're going to talk about that. So those two devices are pretty much obsolete. Let's see, down here I see, yeah, this one. This is a picture of a machine with a 3 1/2 inch floppy disk drive on it. You cannot find a machine with a 3 1/2 inch floppy disk drive any longer. This is a USB 3 1/2 inch floppy disk drive. Windows 10, it is my understanding that Windows 10 does not have support for the 3 1/2 inch floppies any longer. So even if you, and this is a Mac, by the way, even if you have a 3 1/2 inch floppy disk drive that's USB, it doesn't have support for it, so it won't know what to do with it. That's my understanding. So yeah, you can see here, they always had the bright colors. That was always fun, but they just didn't hold very much information. The Sony cameras, point and shoot cameras, used to use these 3 1/2 inch floppies for storage. Absolutely crazy. You get like 2 images on there, and that was it. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. So that's A and that's B. So A was the big 5 1/4. B is the 3 1/2 inch device. And then we go up to C, which we know is the internal hard drive, which they've gone over a couple of different things: IDE, SATA, SATA 2, SATA 3, whatever. That doesn't make any difference in this class. Whenever you plug something in, it takes up the next available drive letter. So let's go take a look. I'm going to open up my File Explorer down here in the lower left-hand corner. It looks like a file, or a folder, excuse me, a filing folder. That's what I was trying to say. And then we see something like this. I'm actually going to make this look like it would if you were on campus. So on the left-hand side here, we have what's called the navigation pane. Okay, and we're going to come back to that. At the top, we have our quick access toolbar. We've talked about this. Most Microsoft Windows have a quick access toolbar at the top left of the window. At the top, we have the title bar, and then we also have the quick sizing buttons. These are normal. On campus, you're probably going to see that it looks like this. But by default, Windows 10, almost all Windows have a ribbon. Okay, so we would want to expand that, and if you take a look over here, just underneath the X, there's a little arrow that points down right next to the question mark for help. So we're going to click this, and it says expand the ribbon. We could also do Control plus F1 to do that. I'm going to click that to expand the ribbon. Now I have my ribbon. So I have File, Home, Share, and View. Okay. Then we have what's called the address box. Okay, the address box is here. Then we have a search box, and we have back and forward buttons. Okay, right now they are not active because I haven't gone anywhere. I opened up File Explorer and I'm at the first page. I haven't done anything different. So those won't be active until I actually do something. So on the left side, we can see that quick access is the highlighted area, and that's exactly where we're at. It says quick access up here, okay? On the left side, this is our navigation pane. This deals with locations. That's it. It does not deal with files. It only deals with folders, which are locations where we can store things. I can see a couple different things here. You might see something that looks like this, and that's okay, but we want to expand this so we can see more things. And we see this little icon right here, right next to all of these locations. Excuse me. So we have an arrow that's pointing to the location. That typically means that there are more locations inside of this location. So if I come over here and I click on the arrow that's pointing to this PC, it gives me more locations. Okay, and then these have arrows as well. Let's click on local disk, and if I click on the arrow, not the actual location, just the arrow. So this arrow means that currently we are in a collapsed state. Okay, so if I click this, it's going to expand my view, and I'm going to see the locations that are on the root of C. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and plug this flash drive in so I can access some information on it. And did you hear that? Dun, 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 dun. So it's saying, okay, I know something's been plugged in. I'm going to attempt to install the driver and make a connection with it. And when I do, I'm going to open it up into a File Explorer window so that you can see the contents. Now, if it's the first time that you are plugging in a device into a machine, what you might see is a box over here on the right hand side, and it says please click here to tell us what you want to do with this device, okay, how you want to use it. And then you would see something that looks like this. No, I didn't mean to do that. My mouse is really sensitive. So we see something that looks like this. We see the autoplay menu. Now you might have seen this in another way in a different program, in a different operating system. It would come up in the middle of your screen. This is actually coming up in the upper right hand corner, and it says, okay, so what do you want to do with removable drives? So it says choose what to do with removable drives, and we can do this. We can configure the drive for a backup. We could configure the storage settings. We could open the folder to view the files or take no action. I have told it that I wanted it to open the folder to view the files in File Explorer. And so that's why when I plugged it in, it waited a couple of seconds and then it popped up a File Explorer window and said, here, this is the contents of this drive. So we would go ahead and do that, and it's going to open it up. So here's the contents of the drive. So what I want to show you, is it over here? See, there's lots of stuff on this machine. Let's see here on this device. Let's see. Here we go. It is right here. File hierarchy. Wow, there we go. All right, so here I use this quite a bit because we need to think of file management as an analogy, because it's going to be easier for you to remember what these things do. So if we think of file management and how we store folders and files on a computer as a filing cabinet, I think it's easier to remember the whole concept. So here's our file hierarchy, and we have the filing cabinet, which we could call that our root directory or our hard drive. Okay. This could also be a flash drive or a CD-ROM or an external device, but everything starts at the beginning, and that is the root. Okay, so this is the filing cabinet. And then the folders, so if we pull the drawer out, okay, if we pull the drawer out, we have folders inside of that drawer. So those are locations. And inside those locations, we can have more folders, which would be called a subfolder or a subdirectory, okay? And then inside there, we could also have just files. So you see inside here, inside this drawer, we have folders and we have files. So here is inside the drawer, we have a file. We also have a folder. And then inside that subfolder, we have two more files, okay? We could also use the analogy of a tree. So we're talking about the root, okay? So let's come back over here and I'll show you another picture just to and I'll print these out and you guys can have them for class too. Just a second, I just have to find it, and my mouse jumps around, so I have to use my scroll. Here we go. This is a very old mouse. I've had it forever. I never give things up, especially when I like them. Okay, so if we come, is this the right one? I think it is. And let me preview. Nope, that is the last one. Maybe it's this one. It must be. Sorry about this. I'm doing this on the fly. This one's close. Here we go. This is the one I was looking at. So this, I'm just going to start this slideshow here from the current slide.